Welcome to Custom Home Builder Solutions, also known as CHS, a job costing, full accounting, and profit management software for the professional home builder. In this video, I am going to talk about creating journal entries. And journal entries have to do with entries that you need to make to the books that you can't do through posting a payables bill or posting accounts receivable or deposits, etc. And in this example, when we talk, I am going to create a journal entry for some overhead we'd like to charge to one or more jobs. I'll just use one job to make it simple. In my example, actually, if we go to the button for journal entries to open the journal entries menu, what we're going to see is a batch, all of our journal entries, adjusting journal entries is what they're called, that you made manually, and they should all total to 0. And if you need to view them, you can look at a report of them by drilling down on them to see, and they'll always total to 0 because it will have been posted from one side to the other with a, like in this case, a credit and a debit. There were only 2 lines in that journal entry. Please discuss journal entries with your accountant. Your accountant may give you some adjusting journal entries that you need to post, things like that. So that's what this window is for. You might be posting, monthly depreciation, some things, that you cannot post outside, in other areas of CHS. Now, a full set of accounting books, actually behind the scenes, is all a bunch of journal entries. And if you look at help and we look at the journal entries section of the help here, you're going to see journal entries defined, and this means journal entries defined in CHS. All transactions that are posted to your accounting database are batched together by date and document as journal entry batches. Every record in your accounting set of books could be referred to as part of a journal entry batch. The program marks each record with a journal title. So if you post one of these manual journal entries, it's going to be in a journal called AJE for adjusting journal entry. If you post a bill to accounts payable, it's going to be in the journal AP, and CHS will handle the other side. You'll create a bill, and then when CHS posts it, it's posting a credit usually to your accounts payable control account. It knows which account to use. Same concept with accounts receivable, same concept actually with deposits. You post a bunch of entries and then you tell it which cash account will be actually debited, which increases the cash account. But when you post a deposit to your bank account, it's put in a deposit journal. When you print checks for vendor checks, an offset journal is used. CHS is creating that journal entry for you by taking it out of your cash account and lowering your accounts payable account. It knows what to do with all that. And payroll records are also handled by CHS in a payroll journal if you make a payroll journal entry. If you need to see how entries show up in CHS, let's go ahead and close this. Home, and we need to look at our journal entry batches on the accounting database just to see how they look. I've gone to the Home tab and I clicked Accounting Database General Ledgers, and I opened the menu, and let's just ask for a month of entries. I think I did some and you need to use 4-digit for the date. Let's just ask for those batch of entries. I'd rather just do 1 month here so we don't have so many. Let's see if I can type that right. There we go. And what this transactions database will open is it starts showing each GL account and all the entries in each GL account, and the balance in that account. I mean, the total of those entries, it's not the balance in the account, the total of the entries for the time period that we asked for. But if I do reports, you'll see there's a ledger grouped by date and doc ID. In other words, it's journal entry batches. And you'll see batches all going on in here. You can see this was decreased. This was a quick manual check, so it actually decreased accounts payable trade, and decreased cash, the two sides of the journal entry. Here's one where it's just, here's one of your accounts payable entries in the accounts payable journal. You'll see the journal up here, AP, and it went into your direct construction costs and also put a credit to accounts payable, which actually increased it. But you can see how all those little batches total to 0. And if you create your own adjusting journal entry batch, which we did here in one of our demos, we were purchasing some properties that we were going to use for rental management, so we were putting one side the debit to rental properties and then taking it out of our cash accounts because we wired the money. So that was one adjusting journal entry that we did, and you can see it here. But all these that say AP or AR or offset or payroll or anything else like that, CHS is handling creating a little mini journal entry for you. So that's the concept of the journal entries. If you need to create your own, and in this case we're going to go ahead and create one, we'll come back and talk about copying one and how to delete and how to edit here in a minute, and how to search. But you do add new journal entry batch. I paused for a second to answer the phone, but anyway, we've opened the window to add a new journal entry batch, and I'm actually going to do it on 12/31, 2015. And it says it's prior to my current period. If that's okay, click the OK button. You can adjust that up there. But notice that the current period that we have set right now is for the year 2016, and we are allowing entries outside of that period, so we're going to be able to do this. Now you need to give it a batch ID so that it can be unique. It has to be a unique one, and it'll tell you about it if you copied, if you created a same batch ID. But let's do OH2 jobs underscore, and let's use 6 digits for the date. And we're not interested in copying. We'll do that here in just a minute. And let's create a new JE batch. So the window that opens first has the first line. Please be sure you always read all the information up here. It has the first line of your batch, and the account that we're going to use, we're going to allocate, sorry, I used the wrong account, GL8799. We set up on our chart of accounts down at the bottom of our GL numbers for admin expense because we just wanted a line there for overhead that we plan to charge to job. And we'll just put December 2016 OH to job costs, something like that. And we'll need to put a minus amount here. It'll be a credit that will actually lower your admin and expense accounts on an income statement, but it'll come back in when you close the job, and you'll see what I mean in a minute. But let's just say we're allocating $100 a month or something. Now, whether or not on this line that has to do with your admin expense account you use a job code or not is up to you. You could leave it in the H job and do your second line and do that to the job, and we'll see that here in a minute. But it'll impact whether this actually comes up on the cash flow as for the job, because you can do little cash flow reports for the job. If you leave it in the H job, then it will show $100 out for cash flow for job costs when you do a cash flow report. Or if you go ahead and put it to the job, which is our demo job here, I selected a job, it supplied the department. I'll leave a cost code as 0 so this part does not show up on a job cost report. And remember, job costs that show up on job cost subsidiary reports are only ones marked with a job and a cost code other than 0. I'm talking about all of this just so you can know why these various fields are here. The fact that I'm selecting a job on this line, when I copy this line, and I'm copying it because I don't want to type this information again, I now want to put this to my work in progress account, direct construction costs, where I put my job costs. And on my budget, I had a thing for overhead miscellaneous, It's pretty hard to put anything against that, even though you were budgeting for it, unless you make a journal entry. So this line, because, then let's put a positive 100, which actually increases your job costs and causes this to be 0, which this will not allow you to submit this journal entry unless the total of your debits and credits that you enter here do total to 0. This will show up on a job cost report, but as far as your cash flow, because I did the job here, cash flow reports for a job don't care about these cost codes. They're just using accounting information. This will not lower your cash flow for the job. So it's actually, if you put an H here, then it'll only find one entry, so it won't cancel each other out, and it would lower your cash flow for the job. So that's actually just up to you if you're monitoring cash flow and you want the overhead to also show you when you see how much money in and out for the job itself, whether you want this to be included or not. In my case, it will not be. It's going to cancel itself out because I put a job code in both things, and I have no opinion either way about how you do that. But this is how you create a journal entry. You could keep copying rows if you need more lines. Don't do, like 50 some odd rows. Hopefully you could break down a journal entry into smaller. I wouldn't suggest more than about 10 lines just because of the nature of the web, and if you sort of get temporarily disconnected and there's too many for it to post or something like that, you wouldn't want to do it again. So try to keep it kind of small. You could, of course, be doing some other job, and add lines that you're allocating overhead to for the December 2006. If you don't want to copy the line, you can use a plus button, and it won't copy any of those things from above, and you just fill it in. If you don't want the line because you accidentally created one you don't want, you use the X button. And when you're ready to submit, like I said, if I put 110 here and I try to submit, it's going to tell me they must equal 0. So CHS takes care of making sure you don't get your books out of balance. So, and the other thing that I'd like to point out is even if you receive some job revenues that you didn't actually receive cash for, like say you got a lot draw and you didn't really get cash, but you got the revenues of that lot draw. Revenues just means sort of monies received. You sort of got that as a loan and then spent it on job costs. There's information on the deposit window about how to post 0 deposits. This is because CHS, when it's producing subsidiary job revenue reports, only picks up those job revenues from things posted on the deposit window. So that's why I'm saying you should post any job revenues that you want to show up on job subsidiary reports on the deposit window. The deposit window can act kind of like just a little journal entry window for you. So that's what that's about. Please read more about it, etc. And I'm going to go ahead and submit this journal entry. And it says it's been posted and the window will close. Now what's cool is that this window has stayed open, and maybe I'm 2 or 3 months behind in doing this. I could now select the next month, the end of the month, and I want to allocate at the end of January 2016 so much for overhead, and I could copy. So if I do 01/31/16 as overhead to jobs, and I say I want to copy, I'll say yes, and in the drop down it'll give a list, and I happen to know that mine all start with OH. So I want to copy this particular journal entry I just made. I could look at it just to be sure that it's the one I want to copy, etc., with a little report. But it is. And now if I do create new JE batch, it's going to ask if that's okay. And basically what opens is it goes ahead and copies it with the new date and the new batch ID. And it opens the same window that opens if you decide to edit a journal entry. And I'm fine with this. I just copied it, and I know now I have this as of this date. But you will need to make it think that it's ready, that you made some little change for this to get active. It'll come in being dimmed and won't get active until it thinks you've made some change. So I just took out an S and put the S back in so that I could get this button active. That's what happens when you copy one. If you're really editing something, you will have made some changes, so it wouldn't be much of an issue. So let's submit that batch. And since we were on the edit window, the other window to keep copying closed. But now you can see these are sort of descending, the latest entry at the top. We've made some later entries actually, but you can see these two entries. And you can search for various entries if you like. And one of the ways you can search is by this batch ID. And it says you can type partials. So if I know that I'm always using the same batch ID for this type of entry, I could just type that part in, OH to jobs, so that I could just see those. I can clear my search so that I get all the records back. I could, of course, just look for my entries maybe in 2014 or whatever range of dates I like and do a search. That kind of thing. And the button for refresh would be mostly important if somebody else was making journal entries or you just left this screen idle. But that's how you both add a new journal entry and that's how you copy a new journal entry. You get the same thing for copying. If you just do add new journal entry and you're wanting to copy, that's how you copy it. If you want to edit one of these, you click the pencil edit icon. And that same window we saw a minute ago, maybe suddenly I want to allocate, 125 instead of 100 for whatever reason. So I'm editing this. And I would submit the edits. And if I drill down on the report, I can see that my edits took that it's 125. I can also see in the audit thing here that I edited the records and see how it shows the $100 before I did the edit. The other thing is if I decided to delete this entry, there's something about it I don't like. If I click the red X icon, it's going to do some checking and it'll let you know if there's any reason it can't be deleted. It does suggest before you delete it that you might want to print the report of it, so I'll cancel. And I could just do a report of it in case I'm deleting it because I want to re-enter it, and then I could print this little report before I delete it. But if I delete it, and I say okay, is it okay? It deletes it. It's refreshing the list. It's no longer there. And that audit is also here in the table. Confirm deletion of journal entry, and it says the batch ID and how much in both GL accounts it was, etc. So it's tracking, and it's tracking that it was me that did it and the audit date that I did it, etc. There'll be reasons CHS tells you that you can't delete something. The balance forward entries you can't delete. You have to take care of that on the chart of accounts. Making any edits to that, I mean, you can't edit those. Closing year-end journal entries you can't edit, etc. So I think that's this report here. If you do a search, like say we submit our search again for that 2014, it's a detail report of your journal entries based on your search. So, and then you can export this to PDF. But this is, you remember there was 2 journal entries that we could see there. And so it shows the in and outs of whatever we searched for, and you can see the filters we were using, greater than or equal to January 1st, less than or equal. So you can, whatever your search is, you can then do a detail report of journal entries up there at the top to see the in and outs of all the ones that are displayed here. As long as you don't have more than 200 displayed, it's going to tell you get it narrowed down because that's just way too many for the report. Anyway, I think that's probably all I need to say about journal entries. If I jump over to the ECC for that job and I refresh it, which is the estimated cost at completion, I just want to show you how that journal entry, we only have one journal entry now because I deleted one of them. But if I go way down here, you can see that they budgeted $1,000 for overhead miscellaneous. It'd be pretty hard to just figure out how to post any actual cost to that, so that's why we did a journal entry. If I drill down on it, I can see where it came from, that it came from a journal entry. I can tell that just by the fact that the vendor is Z. There's no real vendor attached to it, and CHS has to have a vendor there, and it can, so it puts a Z in there for that. So it, as you make more journal entries, they would show up here, but you can see how then this, because it's now a job cost, could show up on draw request, job cost reports, on your ECC like this, etc., because you made that particular journal entry. Of course, you could just make, like I said, regular journal entries for depreciation, this and that. There are a couple more things I wanted to point out about the journal entries window before I leave this video. If I click journal entries, I've added one more journal entry in here that the program created. But there are a couple of types of entries. One is for closing jobs, and one is for closing year end, at the end of your year, that CHS actually helps you create by using tools here for job closing entries and close books year end. If I go back to my journal entries, you can see in the accounting help that there's help about a job closing journal entry tools and closing your books at fiscal year end. Actually, when you use either one of those tools, it's creating an adjusting journal entry. It's helping you create it, gathering numbers for you, and helping you create it using those tools. So these are particular kinds of entries. This kind, if you drill down, this was closing the year end, and you look at the report of that journal entry that was created to actually close out all your income and expense accounts and take them to an equity account. This one was owner equity. This is the total of the combination of all those entries, that kind of thing, and it'll do it actually by department and by job. It'll break them down, but there's one big, and CHS, when you're posting entries, say accounts payable entries, you're trying to delete entries, you're trying to edit entries, CHS is looking for this particular kind of description and a date that's after the entry you're trying to make to give you some warnings about how the books have already been closed, that kind of thing. You also are, if you try to click to edit that, you're going to get a message about that and with some suggestions, because it's generated by CHS. We don't want to interfere or mess up your books. It does. But you can, if you do either one of these kind of journal entries, closing a job or a book, you can delete the journal entry and then go use the tool again to close books or close a job, that kind of thing. So you'll see this kind of style, closed a group, CLS, close, and a job code. These are ones generated from the tools for CHS, but they will show up here because they are actually generated as adjusting journal entries, so that you could come here and delete them if there's some reason you need to redo those. Okay, I think that's all I have to say about this journal entry batches window and how to create. When you create your own manual ones, it's quite often referred to as adjusting journal entries. And thank you for watching.